and see all of that, and it is amazing. But I have a crafter here this morning. Carrie, would you come and just show us, talk about this quilt? Carrie made this quilt with the cross in the middle. And maybe we can just hold it up a bit that they can see. Now, Carrie designed this and made that.
I didn't design it. I more or less picked it off of a picture.
That's me
It really
designing
isn't
it.
my pattern, it's somebody else's pattern, but I picked it off of a picture to get what they were showing.
That's beautiful.
It's
So-
very beautiful.
We're going to have Carrie tell us how this happens. And she handed me this pile of fabric. We need to slide that back a little so it can fall down. So you tell me about that.
I'm not a pattern person. I'm a vision person. I look at something and I sit down and I kind of scrap on paper and stuff. I take a piece of material like this, any piece of material, and I start out with that. Then I end up with a square. With a square, you can do anything with it. It's all the way you lay it. If you want triangle squares to form a hector or anything, for instance, like this. You want a heart, you lay your squares. This is just a thought. I don't even know what you would call it. This is called a pinwheel. This is called your braid. And this is just your 4 miniature squares to make a 5-inch square. This is your, I call it the Bethlehem Star. And there again, it's all the way you lay your squares to get your pattern. And this pattern here, like I said, I was looking at a Women's Day magazine. And they had this quilt laying over. And I sat down and visualized it and came up with the pattern for it. But it's very simple.
So Carrie, you would say when you start with those pieces, first you have to decide what you're gonna make.
Like,
If
say,
you're making a quilt or whatever.
right, say, I seen a beautiful butterfly, so I visualize this butterfly, and I'm, and then I start laying pieces down to bring the shape of the butterfly out. It's
So-
all the way you visualize and cut that piece of material and leave it alone.
So first, we need to decide what we're going to do.
Right.
And then we have to take all these pieces, put them together and pursue them.
Right.
And that to me is totally amazing. Carrie
Yes.
finds that relaxing.
Very relaxing. If
So-
you know-
All those denim pieces she put together, and this is what she did.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's out of old jeans from scratch.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So this is what happened. PK had jeans that he didn't want anymore, and one day I saw him cutting these jeans apart, and I said, "Can I ask what you're doing?" He said, "Well, I'm gonna make a vest." I said, "You are." He said, "Maybe I'll let Carrie make the vest."
So he hands me a bag of cut up jeans.
Just like that.
Just like this.
And then she took
That's
it,
awesome.
took it and
You
went
would
to
like that,
there.
wouldn't you?
So when I sit down, I cut the squares. I put all my squares together, made me a big piece of material. And then
Yes.
he gave me a vest, and I followed his vest. And like I said, to get your shape and size is the way you lay it. And
And these were pockets, right?
yes,
Mhm.
he wanted pockets on it. And
Do you
it-
hand sew it or do you machine sew it?
No, I machine
It's
sew.
like machine.
And then to get your size here, is what I said, you take your 2 squares and sew them together, and then that brings your design
Yes,
in the way you lay it.
yes.
So he wanted lapels, and apparently Carrie was like fretting. Is that a polite way to say
Yes.
that? She was telling the Lord, you need to tell him that he doesn't
I
need
got
help.
I said, Lord, you need to tell Ken.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a paddle on this fence. So I walked away and walked back.
So these lapels then would be the long strips that he gave her,
Yes.
and that's what she did with it.
Wow.
Has he worn it yet?
Gorgeous.
Has he worn it yet?
Not yet, he just got it from her the other day.
Wow.
I bet he'll be in it once.
And she put the snaps on and everything, and I just wanted Carrie to explain to us how all this comes together.
Wow,
Thank you, Carrie.
that's awesome.
I think she did good work, but does that, the quilting, does that sometimes make you think of that verse, all things work together for good, like sometimes
Amen.
the Lord gives, life gives you scraps,
Yeah.
Yes.
Been there,
but it
done that.
depends what you decide to make with that. If you take those scraps, we can make a quilt. So let me tell you, I want to read to you from Ruth today. Thanks, Carrie. I just want to, everybody familiar with the story of Naomi and Ruth? I love that story. They had that at Sight and Sound one time. Did anybody see it, Ruth? Oh, that was beautiful. Anyway, just let me read a little bit. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judea, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, his wife's name Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephraites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Moab was not a godly country. Now, Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Orpah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and a husband. Does that feel like scraps? I guess it does. So here we are in a foreign country, no husbands, no sons, and of course it was the husband that was the provider of the family. So when Naomi heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. Their home was Bethlehem. So Naomi said, well, rather than sit here and feel sorry for myself, I guess I'll go back to home where the Lord is blessing the people and providing for them. Sometimes it takes courage to get up from where we are, even though it's not where we want to be. Sometimes it's our comfort zone, you know what I mean? We're used to being there, and to get up and go somewhere else, pack up now without a husband or sons, and to go back to her country where she hadn't been for at least 10 years, because it said that she lived in Moab 10 years. That would be a little scary. But Naomi decided she was not going to sit there and feel sorry for herself, but she was going to get up and do something. She had to decide what she was going to do with those scraps. I think sometimes that's where we fall short. We don't decide, I'm going to change. This is going to be better. We can get so complacent sometimes to just stick with the norm that we forget to move on. I don't know if you've ever felt like you had scraps.
Yes.
I am scraps.
Yeah. And perhaps those scraps are a healing that you never got. Perhaps it's a relationship that didn't work. You had it and it fell apart, or you're waiting for it and it's not happening. Perhaps it's a job. So many times, there's so many things in life that feel like scraps. But what are you going to do with them? First of all, you have to decide on what you're going to do with these scraps. What are you going to do? What is your project? So what did Naomi do? She went back, let me tell you, verse 22 says, so Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. She went back in the time of harvest. Why? Because that was the time that she knew the Lord could provide for her. And she had no idea how the Lord was going to provide for her, I'm sure. But if we don't move on, we can miss the harvest time. Because she went in the time of harvest, the Lord prepared for her needs physically, provided the food, also provided a husband for her daughter-in-law Ruth that went with her. And a grandbaby. How special is that?
That's right.
If Naomi had sat there and felt sorry for herself, it wouldn't have happened. She would have lost everything that the Lord wanted for her. If she had not decided, I'm going to trust the Lord and go from here, it would not have happened. And sometimes the hardest part is to trust the Lord when you don't understand what's happening.
Yes.
But you know what? You don't need to understand. But more than that, He doesn't need to tell you. He does not need to tell you His plan. But if we can stay in a place where we trust the Lord, have faith, and keep praising Him, even when we have a lap full of scraps, that's when the Lord can work. Anybody have a scrap pile?
Yes.
Maybe something that you're wondering right now what to do with, or you don't have a project, or maybe you're looking for direction and you're wondering, is this harvest time? Anybody want to share any of those scraps of what's going on that we can maybe help pray for that? Pray about it. You have a relationship that has fallen apart, or maybe it's a relationship you're wanting and it's not happening. It's hard to understand sometimes the Lord's plan, but if we can be faithful and consistent in thanking the Lord for what He's going to do, for what He wants to do, for what He is doing, He is arranging your plan behind the scenes. And that's where it's difficult, but that's where we need to remember all things work together for good to them that love the Lord. My mother always said, the Lord gives the best to those who leave the choice up to Him. And when you don't know what His plan is, it's a little scary to say, Okay, here's my scraps, Lord. You do whatever you need to do. This is what I plan to do. I plan to give them to you.
Yes.
That's my project, to give them to you. In the meantime, I'm going to praise you and thank you and be blessed where I'm at. And sometimes that's in pain. And that can be hard. To keep praising the Lord. But it's worth it because He has the best plan. He knows what's happening. He knows exactly what scraps you're holding in your lap. Once again, Romans 8:28, and we know that all things work together for good to them who love the Lord and are called according to His purpose. And if you love the Lord, He will take all those scraps of your life and put them together and make a beautiful quilt or a beautiful vest or a beautiful wall hanging. It's your project, but it can't be completed until we give those scraps to the Lord. He can make something beautiful out of all that.
Beautiful, something good. All of my confusion, He understood. All I had to offer Him was brokenness and strife, but He made something beautiful of my life.
If you know the chorus, sing along.
If there ever were dreams that were lofty and noble, they were my dreams from the start. And the hopes for life's best were the hopes that I harbored down deep in my heart. But my dreams turned to ashes, my castles all crumbled, fortune turned to loss. So I wrapped them all in the rags of my life and laid it at the cross. Oh, something beautiful. That's pretty.